Hey there, friend. You are listening to Flip the Switch podcast, where we talk about the things you can't find on YouTube, search up on Google, or even ask Siri. I'm Leah Marie, your host. If you have ever wondered how to get that 6, 7, and even 8-figure mindset, then you're in the right place. We all know that anything and everything we have ever done has been done mentally before it was ever done physically, even if it was on a subconscious level. The body must follow the mind. So I say, let's apply this universal law to business and be successful mentally, then allow the strategies we have to take us there physically. I am a brain hacking transformation specialist. I've worked with award-winning CEOs, Olympic-level athletes, accredited investors, a rocket scientist, and more, teaching them to rewire their thinking so their vision's impact is unstoppable, influencing generations. I don't tell you this to impress you, but impress upon you the power each of you already has access to, and it's right between your ears. I've been working with entrepreneurs for over 2 decades, and there is an indisputable trend that can be found. Allow me to let you in on the secret. It's mindset. Mindset is the deciding factor, not resources, influence, time, money, or even your talents or skill set. So in this podcast, you're going to meet incredible people, individuals who are crushing it when it comes to creating positive impact in our world. We take a look behind the scenes at what it takes to win in today's world so that you can apply these pieces now. Enough chatter, let's just jump into today's episode. Welcome to Flip the Switch. Oh my goodness, you guys, I am so excited for this podcast. Welcome back. So we are here, Flip the Switch podcast, Mindset Mastery for Entrepreneurs. And you guys are going to absolutely love my guest today. Hailee Passey and I are like soul sisters, so this should be very fun. Okay, so Hailee is the Zesty Blonde. So if anybody has not, if you need a little more sparkle in your life, head on over. But literally, she is an online business coach. She's a marketing strategist who empowers female CEOs to design a purpose-filled, highly profitable business around their life, their desire for themselves, and their families. I love this. You guys, I am so excited to introduce you to Hailee. So Hailee, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here again.
Yeah, again, exactly. So we actually have done a podcast in the past together. And then I was part of her summit. So we've done a few things back and forth, and we've had some fun with that. And I wanted to bring Hailee back on the show again today because she is definitely one of those people that you guys need to know about when it comes to being someone who is an influencer who can create the 6-figure earner and beyond. So Hailee, give us a little bit of background about kind of how you became the person who can create other 6-figure earners. Because I feel like that's like the first thing that a lot of entrepreneurs, when they come into the business world, that's like their first goal. It's like, I want to hit 6 figures. And then it's like, I want to hit the 6 figures a month. They're like, let's get, going, or the 10K a month or whatever. Right. But that's kind of like their first goal. I feel like, am I right in that?
Yeah. It's kind of that usually it's 5K months. And then we go to 10K months, and then we're like, okay, 50K, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of take some giant leaps along the way, but it's that first little badge of, okay, I'm making a full-time income now. I can breathe.
Yeah, like, right? I'm legit.
I'm real. Right? I'm real, and I can tell people I'm a 6-figure earner. And I don't know where that started, where that psychology comes from. But I mean, I guess with taxes, after taxes, you walk away with enough money to have a full-time income and be fully employed by your business, right? So
awesome. So tell us a little bit about your story. I know that there's certain things that I think your story's fun. And it's always more exciting coming from the actual person because there's the animation and all of the emotion that comes out, right? So go ahead and share with the audience a little bit about your story of how you got to this space. Oh,
okay. So I actually started with marketing.
We glitched out the sound for a second there. I was like, wait, don't call your. Okay, go ahead. We're good.
You need like hand signals if it stops again.
Yeah. So for those that want to see our beautiful faces, you can head over and watch this on the YouTube version as well. Otherwise, you're just going to get us giggling a lot. but it'll be really great. It won't just be like gaggling geese. I promise.
High value giggles. That's what we should, rebrand there. So little background on me. My first love is marketing. That's where I started. I started in the marketing world. Actually, when I was 16, I was recruited to do marketing for local salons. I started with a salon I was working as a site manager for, and then I spread to a couple other salons. I would set up their website. I would set up their social media. This was back when social media for business was just starting, to take wing for small businesses at least, right? Mm-hmm. And so I had a lot of fun doing that. I decided that's what I wanted to go to college for. And so when I went to college, my first 2 years, that's what I was studying. And then the college that I was going to actually hired me to do their graduate and continuing studies marketing. And I was
you guys see what I'm talking about here? Not to mention the fact that you were like, what, 12 when you graduated or something, like 15?
15, yeah. I was 15 when I graduated high school. So.
Okay, keep going. This is so great.
So anyways, I got that far and they hired me and I was like, oh, so I don't need a degree. And I've always been really independent, a really independent thinker. And I hate having people tell me, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. So I dropped out. Also paying, $5,000 plus a semester was just not sitting well with me. So I decided to drop out and open my own marketing agency, and things kind of took off from there. So I've been doing marketing for quite some time, and I've always worked with businesses. I've always been an integral part working with businesses, with startups, with small businesses, with larger agencies. But I was able to get a behind the scenes look at what actually makes a business, one, noteworthy, and two, profitable. And getting that from a whole slew of different businesses. And I recognized, okay, now I feel like I fully understand how I can duplicate this, making you noteworthy and profitable online.
Okay, so give us a little bit of a background. So maybe somebody doesn't know what you mean by noteworthy. What do you mean by noteworthy? What does that look like?
So instead of just being someone who kind of bounces around on social media saying like, hey, I do this, you become your own personal brand that people look to as an authority for whatever topic or subject your business is about, whatever outcome you're delivering with your business.
Yeah, I love that. So instead of you popping into other people's spaces, constantly trying to like, oh, come follow me. Instead, you're like, put your roots down. This is where I'm at. Come hang out, that type of a thing. And this is what I do.
Yeah. Creating a beacon business.
Awesome. I love it. Okay. I've got a few questions for you.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about what was the most important part of the journey that you had in getting to the place where you are right now, and what role did mindset play inside of that? Because I know I've been in your space, so I know how important mindset is inside of your world. And honestly, like all of the influencers that I've been speaking to, we all talk about how literally, you can't physically get somewhere unless you can emotionally be there first, right? Like you need to have the brain power to know, like be there first, and then you can physically attain the goal, right? So share with me a little bit, and our listeners a little bit about the important part, the most important part of your journey, and then how did that fall into there?
Oh man, okay. So the biggest shift for me was probably moving from agency owner / consultant to coach. That's a recent shift. Because I worked as a social media marketing agency owner for a couple of years, and then just recently, last year in November, made the shift to coach. And I had been feeling that pull. I had been feeling everyone asking, like I was already selling courses, but I wasn't really coaching. That wasn't like part of my identity. And I was so freaked out to claim that as part of my identity, even though I was already doing so much coaching inside of my organic spaces and providing value. But that shift, and along with that shift came a lot of mindset shifting.
Yeah, because anytime there's fear, that means we need a mindset shift in order to keep going. So that's a total red flag. You guys, if there's a fear for something, there's a mindset shift that needs to happen in order to get to the other side of that fear and go from fear to courage, right?
Yeah. So I call it the terror barrier. It's when you know something amazing is on the other side, but everything keeps smacking you in the face. Like, this shouldn't happen. This shouldn't happen. This shouldn't happen. All of the limiting beliefs, and maybe stuff starts to go wrong in your own life. And you're like, what the freak? Am I even meant to be doing this?
The terror barrier. Nice.
The terror barrier. Yeah, it's a real thing. And you'll know, if you're listening to this, you know exactly what I'm talking about when you have to make that huge leap, whether it's an investment, whether it's a pivot in your business, whether it's even just jumping in the very beginning in your business. There's a terror barrier that you hit and you're like, oh, should I really be doing this? Right?
The sound effects are perfect. It totally takes your breath away.
Exactly. And that happened to me. I was like, who is going to pay me? Who is going to pay little old Hailee? I was 22 at the time. And I had my agency, despite all of my experience that I've had. I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way. There's no way. No one's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to hire this little baby as a coach to help me, get my first 10K month and consistently build after that. But when I made that leap, when I took that leap of faith, when I stepped over the terror barrier, when I was like, this no longer serves me. I know you're trying to keep me safe, but this no longer serves me. And I moved into faith. I sold out my first round of coaching, my first round of one-on-one coaching. The very next month, I had my first ever 10K month. I was consistently doing 8K months before that, 6-figure years, but that was the first time that I was like, oh my gosh.
There's something here.
Yeah, as a direct result of me stepping over that terror barrier and stepping into a mindset of, I'm going to do this, and into that confidence and faith. There was that result. It was crazy. So
that's pretty impactful. So you stepped over, and not only did you experience the transformation of what happened there, but you also had a monetary result from taking that action, which was awesome. So tell us a little bit about when you made that mindset shift. Did you just have to decide, or was there something specific that you, like, was there a belief shift? Like did you switch certain wording in your brain, or what was it? Do you remember exactly?
So this is really funny because I do this consistently now, right? So every time I have a big up level in my business, which happens frequently, and it feels like whiplash a lot of the time, but every time I have that big shift in my business, I always think, okay, I'm betting on myself. I hit the terror barrier and I say, no, I'm betting on myself. And then I take the next step. But there has to be that shift, and the belief in yourself is the most important part to getting over the terror barrier. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that you're actually capable? Mm-hmm. And if you can just hold on to like a smidgen, a little sprinkle, a little pixie dust of belief, and take that next step, then everything can happen for you.
I love that. And I think that for a lot of people that are like, that's the scariest part, like trusting myself, right? And one of the things that I really coach around a lot is actually strengthening and nourishing your relationship with yourself, right? Yes. Building that trust with yourself. Because if you can build that trust with yourself, then you can count on yourself and you can bring up that courage a lot easier. So those are really awesome. That's perfect. Okay, so let's jump into a little bit about where do your clients, where's their mindset when they start this journey of being like, hey, Hailee, I really want to start, I want to create my first 10K month, right? What is the mindset barriers that they usually come to you with? And maybe just pick one that they usually come with and one way that you respond to that. Just as an example of kind of the when they enter versus when they leave your presence.
Yeah. So I think the biggest shift, well, what they usually come to me with is they're a lot like me and they want to go as fast as freaking possible. And forget about like anything that's not, that they think doesn't have to do with their business, right? Like quote unquote, which a lot of times they're like, no, forget about the mindset. We're going to put that away. We're not going to play with that. Just give me like the clear action steps, just the clear action steps, which we do. We cover that in my coaching program. But they'll run into, oh, this is stressful. This is overwhelming if they don't revisit the mindset. If they don't understand their own value, if they don't feel confident enough in their offers, if they don't feel like they can become that 10K woman. The women that I work with that go from 0 to 10K in 6 weeks, they already have those foundational pieces in place where they're like, okay, I know I have a little smidgen of belief that I am good enough and that my offer is good enough. And now I just want your help expanding that and creating the clear action steps to move forward.
I love that you pointed this out because people, like you said, people jump right into the doing phase. They want the action, right? And those of my listeners here that have been in my space a little bit know that we talk about the cycle of growth, right? The universal truths of the growth cycle, and how the doing phase is actually phase 3. And so if we jump straight to phase 3, that's where we end up getting frustration, overwhelm, like Hailee said, and then we are forced back to step 1, right? So you can choose, right, to either start at step 1 and go through it and go slowly and smoothly, and slow is smooth and smooth is fast, or you can try and jump forward, go back to the beginning, and then do it properly.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're talking about here, because I think one of the most important things that people miss is that it's not about what you're doing 100%. Like I'd say, maybe 50% of it is what you're doing. And the other 50% is who you're being, like how you're doing it. Like who are you being when you do the action? Because Hailee, tell me if I'm right, but I would say that you have people come into your program and then, and I know that this happens in all programs out there, right? It's not the program, it's not the content, it's not that, because you have very successful stories and all these people that are rocking it, and then you'll have other people that just struggle, and it's not the delivery of what you're giving, right? But it's what's happening inside their own mind. It's how they're showing up, right? And so like you said, is then they're like, well, I don't want to do the mindset stuff. I don't want to do the woo-woo fluffy whatever, right? And it's like, no, you don't understand, right? And I actually talked about this in a podcast last week. We were talking about the difference between working out in the gym, right? And how that's like building a business, building muscle, right? And how you could race through a workout like sloppy and all over the place, and it does nothing for you, versus going in and doing like a curated movement, very slow, holding, releasing, like that type of thing, right? And so it's about how you show up. And not just physically, but like what's going on between the ears, right? Like that's key. I love it. Okay, cool. I have another question. What do you think people don't get or understand about being a successful entrepreneur? And I want to add to that, and about staying a successful entrepreneur, right? Because I feel like people hit this, I call it second level imposter syndrome, where essentially, we are afraid to make that first jump, right? And to create that thing that is on the other side of the terror barrier, as you said. And then we deal with the imposter syndrome, all the stuff, who am I, blah, blah, blah. We get over that and we have success. And then when we come to the next one, we're like, it comes back again, right? And then you're kind of like second guessing, like, did I really do that? Oh, maybe it was just because I had the coach, or it was just because I had the this or the that. And so it's kind of like a second level imposter syndrome, right? And so it can kind of follow with you in a sense, right? But what do you think it is that people need to understand that they don't necessarily understand to not only get successful, but to stay in that growth and scaling place?
So I think it's what you're mentioning. It's important to recognize your patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I have an up level, like the first time I hit 50K in my business, I was like,
and you did that in a month, right?
Yes. Yeah. The first time I hit my 50K month, I was like, that was 3 months after launching my coaching business, mind you. So I was like, I went from 10K to 50K in 90 days.
And let's remind everybody for a second, you had a lot of foundational stuff of the growth phases already intact. Like,
Yes.
So you didn't go from knowing nothing about marketing to like, I'm going to market to I'm going to be a coach inside of like 6 months. And it was, right? So you worked with the universal laws of growth. So let's just make sure that people understand this is not an overnight success story in that.
No, absolutely not. And I think you can grow in a really fast amount of time.
But you have to have the mindset to sustain it.
Yes. So there's pieces. So this is great because this is exactly what I want to talk about. But you have patterns, and when you can pick up on your patterns, you can like exploit them almost, right? Yeah. So after I hit my first 50K month, I was like, burnout, right? And I hit burnout and I was like, oh my gosh. And then self-sabotage sets in. And that's my pattern. I know after I have a huge, amazing success that I have to take a step back and just be for a minute. I have to shift and feel that next level of success and be like, okay, who am I now? Oh, not much has changed, but now I'm allowed to play bigger, right? So after I do that and I recenter myself and I get in a place, then I can continue forward and I can take the next step. It's all like brick by brick by brick. You're just taking steps forward. And when you recognize and you can see like, okay, here's what I need to overcome in order to get to that next step every time, then it becomes a lot easier to create that exponential growth. And this is something that I work on with my clients because they do create changes in short amounts of time. Because we lay those foundations really quickly and we help them recognize their pattern really quickly so that they can know, okay, here's the next step. Here's the next step. Oh, I'm self-sabotaging myself. Oh, I'm stepping into imposter syndrome. Okay, what do I need to do? Oh, I have the tools. Let me pull this out and play with it and then get back and recenter so I can take the next step forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just, if you guys are listening to this and you're going, okay, well, where do I start inside of that? If you need to look for your patterns, just start with awareness. Come from curiosity and start watching yourself like third person watching yourself. Not creepy, but like, watch yourself and be like, oh, that's interesting. Why did I react that way? Why did I get defensive when somebody did this? Or, oh, that's interesting. When I did this, I got these awesome results. Oh, that's interesting. Just start taking awareness to what's happening and utilize your emotions as your red flags to know where your thoughts are, right? Yeah. Usually we have a harder time. That's kind of like deeper level. People that have awareness are able to better manage what their thought patterns are. But if you're not there yet, start with your emotions, because that will let you know where your thoughts are. If that's your first line of defense, to be like, oh, this is how I'm feeling, right? And so then asking yourself why and doing some journaling and stuff is awesome. Okay, this is so great. What types of habits have you developed that have helped you achieve this level of success that you're currently at? And are any of these patterns that you've developed for yourself also something that that you encourage other people to do, or is this something that you're like, yeah, it's a little unique for me, or what's kind of around that? What's maybe a new habit that you didn't used to have before?
Okay, journaling is one of those. That's probably one of the big, and I recommend all of my clients journal, especially if you are a coach. Especially if you are a coach and you're teaching from your own experience. You need to keep a journal because you'll be able to look back and see, oh, I was thinking this 3 months ago and I know my clientele base needs it now.
Okay. Can we just pause for 1 second, you guys? If you have your own words from 3 months ago, hello, there is your sales copy.
Exactly. So that's the number one reason we do it, right? But number two is because, again, it makes you aware. I know, like, Leah is fabulous at helping you become aware of your thoughts and helping you be like, oh, okay, I need to become a noticer, right? I just need to notice. But also being able to just take your journal out and say, oh, here's a pattern. Here's a pattern. Sometimes I'll look back and I'll say, okay, oh, look, there's a new pattern that's being established, right? Or, oh, look, this is something I didn't notice before. But journaling is one of those key things. Another thing that I've made a habit more recently that has up-leveled my success is being. I'm a doer. I'm a type 3 Enneagram.
What you're saying is you're
you're turning into a human being. We are human beings, not human doings. Right? So you're like, no, I'm actually being.
Yes, exactly. So I've taken a step back. So I used to identify so heavily with my business. Everything that was wrong, everything that was right, like that was all me. That was Hailee. That was my identity.
The emotional detachment.
Yeah.
Right? From our career versus who we are as an individual. Yes. I love it.
So important. But and that has to do with me being an Enneagram 3. Achieve, right? But being actually supports my doing. It helps me do better. So I schedule in time every single day to just be. My phone goes away, my computer goes away, all of my outside attachment goes away, and I just be. I hang out with my husband, I go, on long walks with my dog, but I schedule time to just be, because again, like my main message is that you can have the business of your dreams that's highly profitable, designed around the life that you desire for yourself and your family. You can have all of it. You can have all of it. You have to actually plan for that. You have to actually tactically make that happen. You can't just expect it and be like, oh yes, this is going to happen, because doing will fill all of the pieces of your life.
Yeah. And I feel like the opposite of that, the opposite of being, and when you're living into that doing place, what happens is you end up falling into this place of living the nightmare to create the dream. And you need to stop and wake up and be able to build the business around the lifestyle, create that so that you can actually have the health and the relationships to enjoy the business.
Right?
Because there's no excitement about being wealthy and having no one to share it with, or no health to be able to do the traveling or do the things, right? Awesome. I love it. Okay. Let me just look at my notes, because I had something else here.
One more habit I can share while you're looking.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
So the third thing would be consistency. Doing everything with consistency. So that includes your marketing. That includes applying your business strategy. That includes doing the mindset work. Like, it's all important to do it consistently. And consistency, I know you're like, oh, well, that equals habit. But no, consistency is a habit you can adopt. It's not something you're just innately, oh, I'm going to make this a habit. Consistently is a combination of commitment and clarity.
I love it. So good. And you guys too, that makes me think about, I think like one of the biggest things that I hear that people struggle with is consistency, right? If you don't have consistency, then you're not passionate enough about it. You don't care enough about it. If you cared about it, you would do it. Right. Like, just that's the way it is. Sorry. I've had clients when I started out, like way back in coaching, I was doing some health coaching, and I had a client that was coming to me for some weight loss and stuff like that. And we were doing a ton of work with her, and she was just loving it. And it was doing great things, but she wasn't losing the amount of weight that she wanted, and she was getting frustrated. And to be honest, the only reason she wasn't losing the weight that she wanted was because she wasn't willing to give up the thing, right? That would allow her to lose the weight. The thing that she wanted was more important to her than the weight loss. And that was the only thing holding her back. That was the only thing, right? Okay. And honestly, she would overschedule herself and put all of her friends, like literally her friends were booking her calendar a month in advance. That's how busy this woman was, and how many friends she had, because she was like just the biggest sweetheart. But it was sabotaging. She would work hard all weekend, and then she would throw it all away every weekend. All week she'd work hard, and then she'd throw it all away all weekend partying with all of her friends. And so the amount of calories she would take in alcohol or in all of these different things, she was able to make some really major adjustments inside of that. She did lose some weight, but to the extent that was the one thing, she was not willing to, it actually wasn't an eating thing. It actually wasn't an exercise thing. It was a relationship thing. she wasn't willing to risk the relationship she currently had with all of her friends by saying no to them and giving herself some self-care. That was the number one thing. Was she wasn't willing to set boundaries and give herself the self-care time, and so her stress levels were too high. Yeah, because when she made the shifts with like eating healthier and removing the alcohol, like she did some weekends where she did something totally different and her friends didn't desert her. It was great, you know, but that's just, I just want to bring that point in, because if you guys are struggling and it's a consistency thing, you need to like look in the mirror and ask yourself, what am I not willing to give up? Because if you're not willing to give up the thing, then you might want to try a different approach or change to a different goal set, because you can't say, oh, I want to become, you know, the Michael Jordan, but there's no way I'm giving up my sleep, so I'm not going to go practice basketball.
Yeah, I think this is definitely an important note for yourself, right? Because it's the marriage between commitment. Are you actually committed to what you want? And do you have the clarity to be consistent? The clarity and confidence.
Yeah, like, do you know what that means?
Exactly. Do you know what being consistent, and are you doing it correctly? Asking yourself. This is why people work with a coach, because they want to make sure that they have the clarity and confidence that the things they're doing are actually going to get them to their end result. They're committed. They're like, I know I want to do this, but do I have like the clarity and the confidence? Do I have those pieces that I need? Am I optimizing this consistent thing that I'm trying to do? Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I mean, lots of people are committed to the end result. They're just not committed to the journey. And so that's a whole nother podcast, but I'm so excited about this. Okay. So this is my last question for you, and then you can let us know where people can find you. So my last question is what is one thing do you think that you could actually implement right now that would take you to your next level?
Ooh, I think actually for me, it's taking more time to just be. Even more time. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but if I took more time off to just be and be with my thoughts, I know for a fact that would take me to the next level. So I'm actually
I love that. And it comes back to that whole thing, you guys. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast, right? So slow down, then you have like specific curated actions you know you can take. You show up not only just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all the stuff in that space. You do it in a curated format, and you're going to be jumping leaps and bounds instead of like the dog running circles chasing its tail.
Yeah.
Right. And then getting angry and frustrated because you're exhausted and you don't know why the business isn't working because you're working so hard. Right. But you got to be doing the right things. Being. Yep. I love it. Okay, perfect. So tell us, where do people find you? Do they go to the Zesty Blonde? You're on Facebook. I know this for sure.
Yeah.
Is that the best place to find you, on your Facebook group?
Yeah. So you can find me in the Facebook group. It's Marketing, Mindset, and Biz Strategy for Female Entrepreneurs. Or you can find me on Instagram at Zesty Blonde.
Perfect. And I will make sure that we link those into the show notes or into the description, you guys. So thank you so much. I'm going to end on 2 rapid fire questions that are just a little sassy and fun. So share with us one thing that is like super random that people wouldn't expect to know about you, and one thing that's still on your bucket list other than coming to visit me in the Rockies and going paddleboarding after an amazing hike.
Oh my goodness. Okay. One thing that people might not know about me. That's so hard.
Okay, I'm going to go first. I'm going to go first. Something that most people don't know about me is I have hunted octopus with a baby on my back.
You did what now? That's amazing. Okay. Still don't have anything good. I'm like, yeah, I already told you my good one. I graduated at 15. I went to college at 15. I also had my first business when I was 5. So it was called a Hailey's Helping Hand. So that's kind of a fun little note. And then bucket list item, I really would like to spend a whole month on the coast of Italy. Our plan was to do that this year. We had a month that we were going to go, and then crap. So,
got it. So much for joining me and our guests on the show today, Hailee. I'm so excited about this, and thank you for your pearls of wisdom for sharing with us today, you guys. Thanks for showing up, and we will you'll be able to connect with Hailee through the links, and I will see you next week, same time, same place.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Flip the Switch, Mindset Mastery for Entrepreneurs. We've had so much fun in this podcast as always, and I want to remind you guys to go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and I would love to connect with you. So if you have a question that you want answered, jump in, leave us a review, then DM me a snapshot of that review with your question. Then just keep listening to hear your question answered. See you next week.